Our top story, tensions between India and Pakistan escalating to new heights this week. India on Wednesday, under the codename of Operation Sindoor, unleashed 24 missiles in 25 minutes on 9 terror bases in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. This was in response to the Pahalgam attack in Kashmir that killed 26 people. Now, Pakistan's armed forces launched intense shelling on the line of control and the international border in Jammu and Kashmir, Punjab and Rajasthan. Here's what Indian officials had to say.
Along the international border and line of control, drone intrusions were attempted from Leh to Sar Creek at 36 locations with approximately 300 to 400 drones. Indian Armed Forces brought down a number of these drones using kinetic and non-kinetic means.
Instead of owning up to these attacks, Pakistan made the preposterous and outrageous claim that it was the Indian Armed Forces and the Indian Air Force that was targeting cities like Amritsar and trying to put the blame on Pakistan.
Now, civilians in Poonch, Jammu have condemned Pakistan's intense shelling targeting locals in the cross-border firings. My colleague Mohammad Ghazali reports on the aftermath from Poonch.
Right now here at Gurdwara Singh Sabha in Poonch district, behind me, if you can see those hilltop, and behind that hilltop, we have got the international border. And why we are reporting from here, this is the kind of destruction the Gurdwara has faced due to the shelling. The Poonch is one of those border districts which is facing intense shelling for the last 3-4 days since India started its retaliation against the Pahalgam attack. And this Gurdwara has also faced the brunt. And this led to around 16 people who were killed. So right now the situation is tense, but the people here say that Pakistan's deliberate targeting of civilian installations, Gurdwara Sahib, a place of worship, is something which shows off its nefarious design to even create communal discord in the country. I'm joined here by the chief preacher, or what we call the Granthi of this Gurdwara Sahib. We'll try to understand that what is the situation here, because many people also believe that perhaps the vital installations, army installations in and around this area could be the reason why Pakistan keeps firing, and it could be a hit and miss both. But this is what I've picked up after speaking to these people. जी कोई बात नहीं, ये बताएं प्रधान जी कि क्या सिचुएशन, आप भी आ जाएं तो जी, तो ये कब हुआ था ये और कितने लोगों की जानें चली गई थी?
ये 7 तारीख को सुबह 7:30 बजे 7 बजे हमारे गुरुद्वारे साहब में जो डेली रूटीन के मुताबिक जो कीर्तन की समाप्ति होती है, यहाँ पर लगभग 100 के करीब संगत थी। लेकिन 15 मिनट के बाद 7:30 बजे पाकिस्तान की तरफ से मोटर आके गिरता है, जिससे ये गुरुद्वारे साहब को बहुत बड़ा नुकसान हुआ है। हमारे जो यहाँ के हेड रागी थे भाई अमरीक सिंह जी, वो 10 मिनट पहले यहाँ से घर जाते हैं तो वहाँ पर उनकी भी शहादत हो जाती है। और इस किलिंग में पाकिस्तान ने इनोसेंट जो लोग थे हमारे, उन पे फायर किया और सिविलियन पे वार की, जिससे हमारे लगभग 13 लोग जो शहादत प्राप्त कर गए।
Meanwhile, the US is closely monitoring the increased hostilities between the two countries, urging de-escalation from the president to the vice president. It's all been closely watched here in the United States.
I get along with both. I know both very well, and I want to see them work it out. I want to see them stop. And hopefully they can stop now. And if I can do anything to help, I will be there.
What we can do is try to encourage these folks to de-escalate a little bit, but we're not going to get involved in the middle of war that's fundamentally none of our business and has nothing to do with America's ability to control it.
In both calls, the Secretary emphasized the need for immediate de-escalation and called for an end to the violence. He expressed U.S. support for direct dialogue between India and Pakistan and encouraged continued efforts to improve communications.
Now, in the past, the US has helped diffuse tensions between the two nuclear-armed neighbors. In the Kargil War of 1999, US intelligence suggested Pakistan was toying with the idea of a nuclear option. An intense meeting took place between Bill Clinton and Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. Pakistan backed off, and that opened the door to closer US-India ties. Now, after the 2001 attack on the Indian parliament, it was the Bush administration's turn that put pressure on Pakistan General Pervez Musharraf. It finally helped thaw an Indian reprisal. Now, in the recent attack in 2019, after the Pulwama attacks, the previous Trump administration firmly told Pakistan to deny supporting terror groups. But how effective could the US be in de-escalating tensions now, with DC preoccupied with conflicts with Washington preoccupied with conflicts like those in Gaza and Ukraine? Let's take a closer look at that. Joining us now from New Jersey is retired Lieutenant General S.L. Narasimhan from the Indian Army. Also joining us from this is a South Asian analyst, Michael Kugelman at the Wilson Center, who joins us from Washington, D.C. Mr. Narasimhan, let me come to you first. How would you describe the current Trump administration's handling of the tensions between India and Pakistan?
Thank you very much for getting me on your show. I would like to say 2 points on this. One, if you look at Mr. Trump's statement and Mr. Vance's statement, it gives one picture. And if you look at Secretary Marco Rubio's interactions with our External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar, and the Prime Minister of Pakistan to scale down the efforts by both the sides, is something that, again, that gives a different picture. So it can be open to interpretation, but my own understanding is I think the US is invested in this particular issue, and they are trying to bring down the levels of action and reaction that is going on between India and Pakistan. That is the way I see it as the initial remark. Later on, as we go along, I'll take on further questions.
Sure. Mr. Kugelman, how would you react to what Mr. Narasimhan just said there about J.D. Vance's statement? Because he says that the U.S. won't get involved in the middle of a war that's fundamentally none of the U.S.'s business.
Well, certainly at first glance, what Vance said recently appears to be quite different from his earlier comments during this crisis, including one he made in a call with Prime Minister Modi, in which he said the U.S. would provide all assistance to India and in the joint fight against terrorism. This suggests that he's saying that there could be limits in terms of what the U.S. would do. But I actually don't. I think that there's consistency here. He essentially said that the U.S. wants to see de-escalation, and that has been the main message from this administration since that horrific attack in Kashmir on April 22nd. So I think that perhaps what Vance was trying to do was to limit expectations. Maybe he was trying to say that the U.S. could not guarantee that it would be in a position to help bring an end to this crisis, but that it wants to be a part of efforts to seek de-escalation. And finally, I think that Vance was also articulating a core principle of the Trump administration's foreign policy, and that's that it does not want to get dragged into other countries' wars. It doesn't want to be involved in wars, and it really wants to have less of a footprint, less of a global footprint than has been the norm for U.S. administrations.
Indeed, and some saying that Vance, they're appealing to his MAGA base as well. Take care of America first. Mr. Narasimhan, let's look at the latest U.S. State Department's press release. It said both Pakistan and India need to de-escalate. On the surface, it seems like a very firm statement to both countries, India and Pakistan. But if you read the last line in its statement about Pakistan, it says that the U.S. reiterates for Pakistan to take concrete steps to end the support for terrorist groups. Is this a clearer sign, a signal, do you think, that Washington is calling out Pakistan once again on terror?
Absolutely. I think it's a well-known fact. Even the previous Trump administration, as you mentioned earlier, had called out Pakistan during an earlier incident in 2019 in Pulwama. So similar one, I think I can see that similar reaction here from the State Department on this. I think Pakistan has been called out to reduce the support, to stop that support to terrorism. That is the basic premise on which we are also basing our reactions. We are saying we are not wanting to escalate. The escalation is actually depending on Pakistan, and our interactions with in this particular issue will continue based on the support from Pakistan being stopped for terrorism and terrorist activities from Pakistan soil. That is the way I see it. I think it is a clear calling out by the State Department of Pakistan to stop supporting terrorism.
Well, Mr. Kugelman, what leverage behind the scenes does the US really have to help de-escalate? The US is close to India and has, of course, historic ties with Pakistan. What's the carrot and stick approach that we might expect in the coming days?
Well, I mean, I would argue that the U.S. May not have as much leverage as some other potential mediators might, such as countries in the Arab Gulf like Saudi Arabia and the UAE and Qatar, which have which have very strong relations with both India and Pakistan and supply both countries with energy and other products, which I think gives them some leverage that the U.S. Does not have, even though the U.S. certainly is a key supplier of various products to India and Pakistan as well. But I think that the idea with the U.S. is that there's a history, a past precedent, as was noted in your report earlier, of mediating to seek de-escalation during these crises, including in 2019, when the first Trump administration was in power. And I think the idea is that this is the U.S., a superpower that has that level of gravitas and can bring something to the table. But again, and maybe Vance was trying to set these expectations, there might be limits to the amount of influence that the Americans might have, particularly in a case like now when, you have a very particularly serious crisis where neither side, India or Pakistan, might be receptive, at least at this point, to outside mediation.
Okay. Mr. Narasimhan, very quickly, we just have about 15 or 20 seconds here. Do you agree with that notion there that the US doesn't have as much leverage now as it did before?
I may not agree with that argument. I think US has got the same kind of influence on both India and Pakistan. The thing that Mr. Kugelman mentioned about the West Asian countries having a say. You find Iran having a visit to Pakistan and then to India. You also see Saudi Arabian foreign minister to Pakistan and back to India. So I think that effort is already on. I think that combined with what influence US has got, I think will have a good amount of influence on both the countries.
Thank you very much indeed, gentlemen, there with very interesting and sometimes different perspectives. Appreciate your time here on Washington Watch.